Well, folks, in today's video, we visit Maine Model Works located in Yarmouth, Maine. This is a store which I've wanted to visit now for quite a while. It was actually recommended by one of you in the comments, and from what I read, it sounded like a really interesting store which was worth paying a visit to. So I did just that. Anyway, here we are on the inside of the store, and let's look around and see exactly what they have in stock. So the first part of the store we're going to check out is this section right here. This is the store's consignment section, and here they basically sell a ton of used low-end rolling stock at a discount. Everything here is pretty miscellaneous, but it's still enjoyable to go through. They've also got some engines in this section, as you can see, such as this AHM Santa Fe unit for $20, which honestly doesn't seem like too bad of a deal. If we look down on the ground, they've also got this bin of stuff in kind of rough condition. Everything in here would need at least a little bit of restoration before you could use it. Just things like wheels and couplers, that sort of stuff. But it's all going for $3 a pop, so maybe you could find something special, who knows. The majority of stock in this store was going for around $4, but they did have a deal where if you bought 2 pieces of rolling stock, it would be a 2 for $5 deal, as you can see right there, so $2.50 for a piece of rolling stock. Not a horrible deal in my opinion. You can see they also had some landscaping materials and another shelf with used rolling stock. However, the used rolling stock in this section is definitely higher end. The prices were also a fair bit higher, but I believe everything in this section has knuckle couplers and metal wheels, so it's all sort of nice. And then as we turn around here, you can see they have a couple lots of different passenger cars. And then they also have this shelf right here, and everything on this shelf has been weathered, and it looks like they did a pretty decent job with it. But this was the thing that I was most excited for. As you can see, they have a whole bunch of used steam locomotives. And some of these, I believe, would have been built out of kits. Some of them, I think, are all die-cast, but they definitely have brass parts. The prices in this box were between $35 and $50, which to me seems reasonable, but let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of curious. Anyway, they also had a whole bunch of different paints, as you can see. And then in a second here, I'm going to show you guys some steam engines, which I was not expecting to see. Just look at these 3. I think this is the first time I've ever seen what I believe is a model of a T1 steam locomotive. It looks pretty nice. They also had a whole bunch of Tyco Mantua steam engines, as you can see. And then above those, they had one of my favorite brands to buy used, Hathorn Blue Box. You can see they got a bit of B&O, chassis system, and also an MRC locomotive. I don't know if that has anything to do with the MRC controller brand, but I've never seen one before. They also had a whole bunch of these B&O locomotives, and then to the side of that, they had some lower-end engines. You can see we got Bachmann, AHM, possibly Tyco, and I believe the GG1 over there was a Riv Rossi. They also had this Bachmann engine and a Lionel GS4, which I was not expecting to see here. This is a Lionel GS4 though, which means it has the Bachmann drive, and you have to be kind of wary with those because they can have the quartering issue, which the older Bachmann engines are prone to having. Here's a brand which I've never heard of before. If any of you know anything about Powerhouse locomotives, please let me know. I'm curious to learn more. They also have this display case of a whole bunch of really high-end engines which look pretty sharp. And this store also has a small layout up here, as you can see. It's nothing too fancy, but I believe they use it for testing locomotives, and it's not bad. And here's a shelf of a whole bunch of really nice pieces of stock. I don't know if everything here is actually for sale, because some things had price tags and other things didn't. One thing I was not expecting to see, though, was a Via Turbo train. As far as I know, those are pretty rare, so spotting one here at a store in the United States was not something I was expecting to stumble upon. This store, in terms of square footage, really is not that big, but I have to say that for the size of store, they've got a really good selection, especially of locomotives, which is something that I really like to see at any store. They didn't really have a whole lot other than HO. In a sec I'll show you a small section which had a little bit of N scale, but I believe that's all they had in the entire store. Of course, you know, there's scenery things, but those can be applied to multiple scales, so they don't really count in my opinion. But yeah, this was, I think, all the N scale stuff that they had. Anyway, that about wraps the tour up. Now I'd like to show you exactly what I decided to buy. Well, now back home in Canada. Anyway, here is the new locomotive. Check this thing out. I'm pretty happy with this thing. And it is a brass and die-cast steam locomotive. Now, they were selling these things for between, $35 and $50, which, again, to me did not seem like too bad a deal. And I just saw this. I'm like, you know what? This is a cool locomotive. I don't really have anything exactly like this, so why don't we pick it up and add it to the collection? And surprisingly, it runs. Apparently, it was part of some sort of an estate. The history is a little bit vague, but it started up when we tested it at the store, so hopefully we'll do the same here. Anyway, why don't we bring this thing over the track and run it ourselves, because when it was at the store, it was actually pretty smooth. But there's only one way to tell. Well, here she is all set up on the track. Let's give it some power and see how it goes here. Seems to be alright. Current draw is a little higher than I'd like, though. See if that comes down. We'll just let it run around the layout a little bit here. It seems to be okay, but that current draw didn't really come down. You can see that it's not too far off from pulling about 3/4 of an amp, which is kind of high, so I think we should probably service this. I got two ideas why this thing might be pulling so much current. Number one is lubrication. If this thing's been sitting for a while, the oil is probably dried up or has just drained out of the engine, so that could be one thing. And the second thing is probably the condition of the commutator. I bet that the gaps are full of crud. And on this engine, the commutator is really easy to access, so I suspect we can probably just clean it from here without having to open the engine up, which is really good. Looks like somebody was using steel wool around this thing. Seems to be a bit of a common issue for some reason lately. I'm ready to take a bet as to what is taking up the majority of the current. This is probably the source. I'm getting kind of suspicious that somebody oiled the commutator, because you can see after just cleaning this off, it's actually not dirty, it's just really, like, greasy. And I'm also going to give this thing some oil. Well, I gave the wheels a cleaning as well, and I have to say, I think it made a difference. Now let's go take this thing over to the track and see how it runs now. Alright, here we go. Yeah. That's running a lot better. Look at that. That's way better. Current draw is, I don't know, we at least lost like 1/4 of an amp. Something's shorting, so it's spiking a little, but that's definitely a lot more efficient. In fact, I'd even dare call this average minus the spikes. Let's see, do we have a low speed now? It's not horrible. It's a little rough on the start, but this thing probably still needs a little more work. But overall, that's definitely an improvement. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed the tour and haul, and with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching.